Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, July 10th through Sunday, July 16th, 2023. This week, it is, of course, Cancer season. Sun is in Cancer, Mercury is in Cancer, so we're exploring a lot of themes having to do with emotion and boundaries, I guess. Cancer is a very tribal sign. When there is a lot of Cancer energy, we tend to put our walls up and we prefer what is already familiar to us. Familiar people, familiar pleasures, etc. In addition to this, we have had Venus and Mars transiting through Leo together for quite some time. So this means that in the area of desire and attraction, we're wanting to be proud and outgoing. We're wanting to have fun. We're wanting to have a good time. These are summer vibes in the Northern Hemisphere. These planets in Cancer and Leo, these are the summer signs, basically. So when we have these summer themes, summer themes tend to have to do with, celebration and having fun. But also they tend to have a lot to do with family and pride not only for yourself, but for your family as well. In addition to this, let's just play a little bit of catch up since I've been gone. We do still have a lot of action in Taurus, Uranus and Jupiter really bringing about a lot of expansion and unexpected change in the area of, money, how we support ourselves, that type of thing. North Node has been in Taurus as well. So with the nodal axis in Taurus and Scorpio, this has been completely changing and revolutionizing the way we support ourselves. Yes, again, that applies financially for sure, but it also applies emotionally. How do we support ourselves emotionally? What do we invest in both financially as well as with our time, with our emotion, etc.? However, that is going to change next week, not in the week that I'm covering in this forecast, but the week following. The nodal axis will be shifting to Aries and Libra. So we're going to talk about that much later on in the forecast, since that doesn't yet quite apply to this week. But just want to put that out there because I am seeing there are a lot of changes coming very soon, mostly in the next week's forecast. But as for this week, we do have two inner planets changing signs. So, of course, that will change the context. That's going to change the experience for all of us. Mars is leaving Leo and entering Virgo, where I would say Mars is in joy in Virgo. This is actually a pretty objectively easy or fun transit to experience. Why? Because Mars has to do with our drive, our ambition, and Virgo tends to have to do with things having to do with small tasks. Virgo has to do with our health, our money, our cleanliness, our hygiene. It's the maintenance of life. And so when you have Mars there, which is all about ambition and drive and getting things done, we tend to be more ambitious toward these things that are easy, toward these tasks that are small and mundane. And therefore, you can really get a good dopamine rush from completing all these tasks very quickly and very efficiently. Okay, that's someone born with Mars and Taurus, Mars and Virgo. Someone born with that Mars and Virgo energy is going to be familiar with that, but we can all experience that to some extent with Mars transiting Virgo. For those of you who have major planets in Virgo, you're going to feel Mars's energy more so you may feel more intense, more energized, more competitive, etc. We also have Mercury leaving Cancer and entering Leo. Mercury is cruising right now. Mercury was only in Cancer for 2 weeks. Mercury just entered Cancer June 26th. And so it only spent 2 weeks in Cancer. It's already ready to move on and leave Cancer and enter Leo. So that will change the context of the information, our mental energy, how we communicate. All of these things have been a little bit more private, a little bit more emotional the past for about 2 weeks with Mercury in Cancer. But as Mercury leaves Cancer and enters Leo for the next multiple weeks, with Mercury in Leo, our communication is going to be much more straightforward, much more outgoing, much more open to the outside world. Mercury in Cancer is, a bit closed off. It's more wanting what's familiar, what's safe. So having Mercury enter Leo, that's going to be a much more expansive phase when it comes to the information and the communication. Okay, but yeah, that's generally what's going on with this week here. So let's go into the day-by-day forecast. All right, so we start out Monday, July 10th with Moon still in Aries, and again, Sun is in Cancer. And so this is a very volatile combination when you combine, especially the luminaries in Cancer and Aries. It's very volatile. In this case, with Sun in Cancer and Moon in Aries, they are almost in mutual reception. I think that's technically incorrect to say astrologically, but basically the concept of mutual reception is where two planets are in each other's signs of domicile. In this case, the Sun is in Cancer, which is the Moon's sign of domicile. Moon is in Aries, which is not the Sun's sign of domicile, but it is the sign of the Sun's exaltation. So hopefully that's not too much jargon. Basically, what I'm saying is Sun is in Cancer, which is more so the Moon sign. Moon is in Aries, which is more so one of the Sun signs. The Sun is exalted in Aries. So they're both kind of out of place. It's like they're in each other's territory. And what you get when this happens is that they can actually support each other to some extent. They can actually, for example, with the Sun in Cancer, Sun is in the Moon's house. So the Moon almost acts as a caregiver. Moon supports the Sun. Hopefully I'm not getting too abstract. So in some ways, the Sun and the Moon, the masculine energy, the feminine energy, the outgoing energy, the inward energy, they're in some ways they're supporting each other. They're definitely connecting with each other. But here, that connection is a square. We just are coming off of that Aries third quarter moon from a day prior, from Sunday, July 9th. So now on the 10th, we're still feeling that volatile energy, especially with Moon in Aries. This is very volatile. Moon represents the emotion and how we're experiencing things on an inner realm, inner world, emotionally, mentally. So with Moon in Aries, we're, very volatile on the inside. We're ready to initiate, ready to be a bit impulsive at times, and then you're just combining that or clashing that with Sun in Cancer, which is all about emotion. So, long story short, Monday does look very volatile. It does look great for starting something. I love a good, astrological configuration for a Monday that is geared toward initiation and action, and you definitely get that with today's setup for sure, so that's a plus. On the downside though, this could be very chaotic, collectively. For most people, this could be chaotic. Of course, it depends on your own natal placements and how this configuration interacts with your natal placements, but as a whole, objectively for everyone, this looks chaotic. This looks volatile. Great day to start something, though. If you want to push something out there and get something into the mix, go for it. Just beware that, there are maybe a lot of other things initiating or happening as well. There's a lot of action today, so just be careful. Okay, and we don't have to deal with Moon in Aries all day. Late in the day, Eastern Standard Time. I should actually adjust this for noon. I'm sorry, it's been a little while since I've done this, but late in the day, Eastern Standard Time, Moon does leave Aries and enter Taurus. Looks like very late in the day, late in the night, really. So that's a completely different setup as well. Moon in Taurus is exalted. It's, it's a very strong, stable energy where we have the best shot at feeling emotionally stable with Moon in Taurus. Again, that's not until very late, at night. But before midnight, we can start to experience that Eastern Standard Time, of course. And again, also with the relationship between the Moon and the Sun, this completely changes with Moon and Taurus as well. Taurus and Cancer, Sun and Cancer, Moon and Taurus. Cancer and Taurus sextile one another. They have enough in common that they can blend together. They can connect with each other very readily, very easily. Sun and Cancer, Moon and Taurus, both of these energies are nurturing. They want stability. They feel very deeply. So that kind of paints the picture for the context that is emerging late Monday night going into Tuesday. Still on Monday, though, we have two major things happening. So let's start out with the biggest one. So Mars leaves Leo and enters Virgo. You can see here noon Eastern Standard Time, Mars has just entered Virgo. So again, like I said, I think my take on this is objectively, I feel that Mars and Virgo is an easy transit. Mars and Leo is pretty great too. Mars and Leo is very proud and outgoing, wants to have fun. So that was pretty cool for the last several weeks. But now with Mars and Virgo, we're wanting to be a little bit more productive. Let's get some stuff done. Let's pretty much just that. Let's get some work done. Let's take care of the details. I always quote, I believe Henry Ford, who was Virgo rising. He said, "Nothing is particularly hard if you break it down into small tasks." So that is the energy of Mars and Virgo, where we're accomplishing these little tasks with a lot of vigor and enthusiasm, and by doing that, you can accomplish really huge tasks. You can accomplish things that are pretty impressive. So that's the energy of Mars and Virgo. Depending on your own astrology, this may be something you embrace very readily, or it may be something very foreign to you. But I'm just gonna put it out there so you can maybe think to yourself, what would be the best way to utilize that energy for the next few weeks. We do have one major aspect today, so that would be Mercury opposing Pluto. Mercury's at the very end of Cancer. It's at 29 degrees Cancer today. It's almost ready to leave the sign. It's on its way out. But before it leaves Cancer, it will make that exact opposition with Pluto, which is at the very end of Capricorn, at 29 degrees Capricorn. So what does this mean? So Mercury, again, is the informational energy, the intellectual energy, the communication. And when it opposes a far, outer planet like Pluto like this means that we are channeling in the energy of Pluto into our day-to-day intellect, into the mental energy, into the communication. We're becoming aware of what is symbolized by Pluto. And what is symbolized by Pluto is Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. Sorry. It did just briefly enter Aquarius for a little bit earlier this year, but other than that, it's basically been in Capricorn since 2008. And long story short, Pluto in Capricorn since 2008 has represented the unveiling of the corruption of our political and economic system. I think there's still a lot of confusion about exactly the nature of the corruption, but we're all at least aware of that there's major intense corruption and lies in the political and economic system. That's what Pluto does. It shows the corruption. It also destroys things. It breaks things down. And with Pluto at the very last degree of Capricorn, when planets are at the very last degree of a sign, it's almost like things speed up and you get this flashback. You get this flashback where you see everything that just transpired during that last transit. You get almost like a flashback very quickly before your eyes. In this case, with Pluto at the very end of Capricorn, this flashback will not be consistent. It will be brought out more intensely by aspects such as Mercury opposing Pluto. So that's exactly what's happening now. We may become more aware of certain corruption, politically, economically. There could be very interesting news that comes out. There could also just be a feeling of dread, because that often comes with Pluto and Pluto aspects. Feelings of dread, anxiety, restlessness. It could be things that have occurred in the past that are coming up today. So this could have to do not only with, political events in the world, it could also be very personal. It could be things that have happened, maybe things that you've done a long time ago that you're not proud of, that are coming up now again for you to deal with. You thought it was over, but something brings it up. Maybe it's just your own ruminating that brings it up. Maybe it's something exteriorly, something outside of you. Whatever the case is, our thinking and communication is bringing up these dark themes from the past for us to deal with. The good news is, this can be very beneficial. It can be very powerful. That's what Pluto pushes us to do. It pushes us through some really dark stuff oftentimes, but the light at the end of the tunnel is becoming more aware, realizing our power is within ourselves, and exerting that power, using that power with our own free will. That's what Pluto ideally pushes us to. And this is a really brief transit. Mercury, like I said, is on its way out. It's cruising. It's zooming out of Cancer. This is really just a little conversation that these planets are having as Mercury's still walking. Mercury's not pausing. It's not stopping to chat with Pluto. It's on its way out. It's like having this little chit chat as it's headed out the door. Okay, so that's all it is. Don't get too, it may be very dark in nature, but don't get too messed up over it, because this is going to be gone before you know it. Okay, let's go to Tuesday, July 11th. So moon is transiting Taurus. We kind of covered that a bit. Moon enters Taurus late, last night, late Monday night. So Tuesday we start out with moon exalted in Taurus. That is super nice, especially like I said, with the aspect, with the relationship that the moon has with the sun. Sun in Cancer, moon in Taurus, these energies get along famously. These energies are super great. Again, this is very receptive energy. It's, let's be peaceful, let's be calm, let's get along with each other, but still have boundaries. It's a pretty harmonious dynamic. We have moon crossing over Jupiter, a little past halfway through the day, Eastern Standard Time. So again, super beautiful, moon crossing over Jupiter. We, on the one hand, are very stable emotionally as a whole, collectively, with moon and Taurus. But with moon crossing over Jupiter, we can also have feelings of euphoria, feelings of exhilaration, feelings of excitement and optimism too. So that's, what more could you ask for? That looks really ideal to me. Major news for Tuesday is that Mercury is leaving Cancer. Mercury enters Leo. You can see noon Eastern Standard Time, Mercury has already reached, it's already about to leave the first degree of Leo. So again, the communication, the information, these things are opening up, becoming more optimistic, becoming more active in Leo. And I don't want to, neither one is necessarily better or worse. It's just that Mercury in Leo is much more active than Mercury in Cancer. For the past 2 weeks with Mercury in Cancer, we saw the information, we communicated through a lens of emotion, and there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of, intuition and information that can come from the emotion. But again, that was a more private energy. It was more guarded. With Mercury and Leo, there's this openness to the world. We are curious, we're active, we are coming online, I guess you could say. That's what I was picturing. And we're ready for anything. We're ready to share information much more readily, much more actively than we perhaps were with Mercury in Cancer. So that could be exciting depending on your own astrology, of course. What else? Just be aware of that. Others may be much more ready to share information and communicate more actively, more outspokenly, in a more outgoing way. So I think that's fun and exciting, but it could have, ramifications that may not be so positive, I guess, just depending on your own situation. Really interesting. The nodes, like I said, are about to change signs. The nodes right now are at 0 degrees, Taurus and Cancer. Remember that the nodes always travel retrograde. I think they always do. They generally always do, for sure. So yes, the nodes are at the first degree of Taurus and Scorpio, but that means, for them, it's the last degree, because they're going backward. They're ready to enter Aries and Libra. Not today, not quite yet, but they're on their way. So what this means is, as soon as Mercury enters Leo and is at 0 degrees or the first degree of Leo, it squares the nodes, because the nodes are at 0 degrees of these other fixed signs, Taurus and Scorpio. So what does that mean? When a planet squares the nodes, I see it as kind of a checkpoint. It's like a halfway point, because when you have a planet, on the nodes, there are these huge changes happening, and it's like a movie kind of, everything happens at the right time or the wrong time, and things just line up a certain kind of crazy way. That's what happens when planets are on the nodes. Right now, Mercury's as far away from the nodes as possible. It's halfway between the nodes. So, in a way, you're as far from that drama as you can get, but I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like a checkpoint. You're halfway between the craziness, between those life changes of the nodes. So I don't think that, generally speaking, when a planet is squaring the nodes like this, and Mercury's not squaring any other planets, there's not really any other planets on the nodes as this is happening. So generally speaking, I don't think this would conjure up some kind of huge event or something that is going to be super noticeable or super in your face. But again, it's more just like a checkpoint. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about how else I can articulate that later. Okay, moving on though. Let's go to Wednesday, July 12th. So we still have Moon in Taurus still all day on the 12th. And we actually get that exact sextile aspect between the Moon and the Sun. You can see, looks like right before noon Eastern Standard Time, Moon will cross 20 degrees Taurus, and in doing so, it will sextile the Sun, which is at 20 degrees Cancer. So, sextiles are beautiful. This is a beautiful, it's a sexy aspect. It's a beautiful aspect. It's a very harmonious aspect. That's a sextile keyword. Especially when you have Moon exalted like this in Taurus, and Sun is in Cancer, where it does fairly well too. Sun's not in domicile or anything like that, but Cancer is the first sign of summer, so Sun does decent there. What I'm getting at is this aspect is really great, very harmonious. It indicates that the masculine and the feminine energies are in cooperation, in cahoots, I was gonna say. And it indicates that the overall mood, the collective vibe is, we're vibing, we're feeling good, we're feeling friendly, we're feeling safe, comfortable, stable, emotionally stable, for sure. Definitely. And Sun is in Cancer, which is, we are in Cancer season still, but there are now no other planets in Cancer. There aren't even really any planets in the water signs other than Neptune and Pisces. So yes, we're in Cancer season, but we really aren't experiencing a huge degree of emotion and intuition and all that. Really, the focus isn't so much there. The focus is more on Leo and Taurus, I would say. Moon and Taurus, two other planets in Taurus, Mercury and Venus in Leo. So what I'm getting at is the focus is kind of well-rounded. We're not super emotional today necessarily. We're not dramatically feeling one way or another. If anything, if I'm looking for ways that this chart is not balanced, there are no, I feel like some of you probably know what I'm going to say already if you're really astrologically astute. There are no air planets at all right now. So when there is that lack of air, we can lack air. You can feel stifled. You can feel like you can't breathe. Things can feel very heavy, very serious. That's the only way I could think that this chart is not well-rounded. But other than that, it's a pretty well-rounded chart. And again, that sextile with the Moon and the Sun, very harmonious, collective, good vibe, good mood, etc. Really great stuff. Okay, other than that, the Sun does make one kind of minor aspect today. Earlier in the morning, when Sun is at 19 degrees Cancer, it squares Chiron, which is at 19 degrees Aries. So I feel like I've said this spiel over and over again. Chiron in Aries, it's been there since 2018. What has happened since 2018? Everyone's become very sensitive. Everyone's become triggered and offended, and there's this whole cancel culture and everything. That I would very much attribute to Chiron in Aries. With Chiron in Aries, we're very sensitive, and we want to be understood. We want to right the wrongs of the past. We want to speak up for our truth and our plight or our whatever, our experience. And I'm not, completely, I'm trying not to swear in these forecasts. I'm not completely saying that that's, not valid at all, because in many ways it is. It's just a volatile energy. That's all. And I think, I think sometimes in demanding understanding and empathy in such a brutal way and in such a crass way, I think the unfortunate part of it is that it can result in further misunderstanding, further destruction, further pain and trauma, which then we'll have to deal with later collectively. So that's my main criticism of it. Does some understanding and do some good things come out of this? Of course it does. But still, this is a volatile energy. I would be careful of it. So with Sun squaring Chiron like this, again, this is a volatile, squares are volatile. Squares clash. 90-degree angles like this. These energies clash with each other. So basically, Chiron is in Aries, demanding respect and understanding and demanding, hear my truth and all that. Sun is in Cancer, though, which is very emotional, and it's showing that we want to explore our own emotion. We want to do so in a safe, comfortable way. Sun in Cancer wants to be emotionally vulnerable in a safe way. And that's where I think you get the clash. In some ways, these energies have a little bit in common, feeling that emotion and that passion, but they're doing so in much different ways. Sun in Cancer is much more guarded and private. Chiron in Aries is much more, hear my truth, world. I'm shouting out to the world. You need to hear me and respect me. Okay, so basically these energies are clashing. This can make people very sensitive, very potentially offended. Misunderstandings could happen just because there is that sensitivity there. And this will be especially relevant for those of you who have major planets in the cardinal signs, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, or Aries, especially around 19 degrees of those signs. Okay, Thursday, July 13th. Moon will leave Taurus and enter Gemini today. And let's see here. Okay, looks like very early in the morning Eastern Standard Time, Moon leaves Taurus and enters Gemini. So again, that's a huge change. I really love Moon in this general sector of the chart, though. Moon does great in Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, or Leo, even Virgo to some extent, and Libra. Like really this whole kind of half of the chart, Moon does pretty decent at. So no, Moon is no longer exalted like it was in Taurus. It's not that, privileged or strong of a placement. But Moon in Gemini does fairly well also. I would say Moon is in joy in Gemini. With Moon in Gemini, we can still have the, some of the intuition and the attention to detail that we get with a strong Moon, but without the heavy emotion of what would typically be a strong Moon. Moon in Gemini is kind of light, carefree, detached. It likes to have fun. It's kind of playful. It wants to learn. We want to learn things. It's an intellectual energy. And again, there was previously a lack of air in the chart. So now with Moon and Gemini, we can kind of breathe. Everything's not so serious, especially Gemini. Gemini really doesn't take anything seriously. It wants to just play around, explore, experiment, make kind of jokes and things, talk to different people, learn things, learn little tidbits. So that's the focus emotionally as Moon enters Gemini. So I think that's definitely a lot of fun. Keep in mind too that Moon is now, it's definitely approaching the Sun in Cancer, so we are nearing the close of the lunar cycle. Moon is losing light. It's waning. It was just a waning crescent when we had that sextile aspect. Now I don't know technically what it would, I think it would still be a waning crescent, I guess. You get what I'm saying though. It like the way the Moon glyph looks here, that's literally what the Moon would look like in the sky at this point of the cycle of the transit. It would be light on the right side, I believe, and it's losing light each day. So what does that mean? So that basically means that the energy that's coming from the Moon is waning, is lessening. Compare that to a full moon where everyone's out super late, super active, there's so much going on. We're way toward the other end of the spectrum with the lunar cycle, so things are becoming quieter. Yes, Moon is in Gemini, which can be very active and very playful, very energetic, but this is still in the context of the last chapter of the lunar cycle. We are things are winding down, we're coming to a close, things like that, and this is only going to increase over the next few days as Moon approaches the Sun. Where are we? Thursday. Okay. That's basically all that's happening today. There aren't really any other major aspects. Sun continues through Cancer, and again, it's definitely the only inner planet that's in a water sign, if you want to call the Sun a planet. So yes, I think it's kind of odd when that happens, because yes, we are in Cancer season, but it may not really feel like Cancer season. For those babies born right now, they won't really act like a Cancer necessarily. They won't come across like a Cancer. They probably come across more like a Leo, since Mercury and Venus are in Leo. They're going to be more upbeat. So I guess what I'm saying is the energy itself it's not so emotional and sensitive like you would expect from a day in the middle of Cancer season. It's more upbeat, outgoing. It's because of these Leo and Gemini energies. These are really lightening things up, making things more active and more playful. We're wanting to just have fun. We're wanting to goof off. It's summer. These are summer vibes to some extent. So that's what's going on Thursday. All right, let's go to Friday, July 14th. So moon continues through Gemini. We still have those um, fun, intellectual, kind of detached energies. That's what we're experiencing deep down emotionally and all that. We do have one aspect today. Sun sextiles Uranus. So Sun will reach 22 degrees Cancer, where it sextiles Uranus at 22 degrees Taurus. Excuse me. So this is interesting. Again, remember what I said about Mercury opposing Pluto. Of course, this is very different. It's two different planets with a different aspect. The similarity, though, is we have an inner planet or body making a direct connection with a much farther outer planet. So in this case, Sun is channeling in Uranus's energy. Sun is our day-to-day experience. It's our casual, it's what we're doing during the day. So it's our work, it's our fun, whatever we're doing during the day. That's the focus of the Sun. And channeling in Uranus, what is Uranus? Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, just like Chiron has been in Aries since 2018. And during that time, Uranus has been it's been indicating this complete change and transformation to the way we support ourselves, to our money, to the value of money, to commodities, to resources. So with Sun sextiling Uranus, it's channeling in that energy. So there could be a sudden change with our finances, with our economy, or there could be a change. More likely, there could be a change to our awareness of those things. That's really, truly what Uranus has to do with. It's not actually those things necessarily changing. It could be those things changing. It could be the money and how we support ourselves. It could be those things changing, but more times than not, it's really our awareness of it that is changing. And then from that shift in awareness or that shift in perspective, that's where the change comes from. That's where the transformation comes from. Hopefully that makes sense. So, in other words, look out for changes with finances, with resources, with the economy. And if you want more specific information, look to where Sun and Uranus fall in your chart, transiting Sun and Uranus. So in other words, look to where 22 degrees Cancer and Taurus fall in your chart. Wherever 22 degrees Taurus is in your chart, like if it's in your 12th house or 4th house, whatever house it's in, that symbolizes an area of huge, of ongoing huge change for you. An area of your life that's been changing since 2018 and will continue to change at least until 2026. Sun in Cancer making this aspect, it's just bringing out that change more intensely today, basically. Okay, moving on. Saturday, July 15th. Now we have the moon becoming much closer to the Sun. Moon about halfway through the day, Eastern Standard Time, just after noon. Moon leaves Gemini and enters Cancer, where it is in domicile. We have a strong moon, very strong, because the Sun is in Cancer as well. So Sun is ruled over by the moon, and moon rules itself since it's in its home. So basically, Sun is in the moon's house, and moon is also there. So moon is, a very accommodating host, accommodating, could be even domineering or controlling, whatever the moon wants. It's the moon's house. So to put it in more tangible terms, we're closing in on a new moon. This is a dark moon. You can see little to none of the moon's light at this point. So this means that the moon's energy, the emotion, the intuition, all of these things are kind of going offline. It's not that they're not there. The moon is, of course, still there. It's just in the dark. We can't see it. Its energy is not tangible. It's not, it's coming to us in a much more dark kind of way, in a much more subconscious, fleeting, spiritual kind of way. A different way of saying this would be the change in energy as symbolized by the moon. There is still a lot of activity there. It's just not activity in the physical world. It's activity in our subconscious, in our minds, in our dreams. That's where the energy is. That's where the changes will be for the next few days while we experience this Cancer new moon. Okay? So basically, we're on the eve of a new moon now with moon in Cancer. And I think because this is happening in a water sign, this strengthens many of the themes that we would already experience during this part of the lunar cycle. This part of the lunar phase, like I said, it's all about dreams and subconscious and, deep feelings that, are not even fully conscious to us, that we can like barely grasp and understand. That's what we would typically experience with a new moon or a dark moon anyway. But because this is happening in the sign of Cancer, Cancer has to do with, these subconscious states of mind. It has to do with feelings and emotion and intuition, so that just strengthens this whole dynamic even more so and makes it that much more dreamy and feely, emotional, vibey. I don't know, a bunch of words that aren't really words. So yeah, that's what's going on. Definitely starting Saturday. It's definitely gonna take up the whole weekend, in case you were wondering. So with this energy coloring the weekend, I would really say it doesn't look like a good weekend to go out, really. Mercury and Venus are in Leo. They're supporting us being active and having fun and going out and having a good time. But as far as the sun and moon are concerned, and I really think sun and moon are, they are by far the most dominant energies in the sky. I think that's pretty obvious. They're not on that same page. They're in Cancer. They're wanting to be home, especially not only sun and moon in Cancer, but also the moon phase, with it being so close to a new moon. This is showing a decline in the activity. This is showing, let's stay home. Let's be in situations that we know will be safe and secure. Let's, not take risks. Let's go, it looks like a rest period. It looks like a period to, stay at home and kind of allow yourself to be very relaxed so you can regenerate, not just your energy, not just regular resting, but, rest your mind, so you can build that intuition and that inspiration, which is really going to come on the other side of the new moon, especially once moon enters Leo in a few days. That's when, then we'll be in a new phase and you can be more active and do whatever, but for this meantime, looks more like a resting phase, really. Looks like just chill out this weekend is what it looks like to me. Okay. And then lastly, for Sunday, July 16th, there are no aspects today. We don't even get that new moon quite yet today. It looks like it's going to happen on Monday, July 17th. Let me check that. Yes. So Sunday, we're in the midst of a new moon. We're on the eve of a new moon. You could call it a dark moon since the moon's dark. We can't really see it. But for now, we don't quite get that breakthrough yet of the actual new moon aspect. The moon technically does not cross over the sun. It's just right next to it. They're both in the same house or home, if you want to call it that. They're both, maybe they're just in different rooms or something, or they're across the room from each other, but they're getting closer. This sounds really weird. So yeah, we're at the end of this lunar cycle. Again, it's all about rest, relaxation, dreams. This would be a really great day to like journal or something, or go on a walk in the woods with yourself or someone you are close with, So, these things that are more relaxing in nature. Or if you are a very active person, you can exercise. Like, exercise is great for this too. Working out or certain kinds of sports, anything that allows your mind to kind of, like we do these things to get in the zone and forget ourselves. You know what I mean? So anything that is like that is not super analytical and like mentally oriented, where, anything where you can kind of get out of your body and or get in your body. I don't know. Anything where you can access these more slow, subconscious states of mind. That is, I think, more so what's supported this weekend. Okay, so that's my take on what's happening this week. I'm definitely excited to bring back the forecast. I've taken some time off, and anyway, you probably don't want to hear about that. If you do want to hear about that, let me know, and maybe I'll make a video updating you guys on what's going on with the channel. But otherwise, stay tuned next week. There's a lot going on next week. A lot more is happening next week than the week I just covered. We have that new moon in Cancer I was just talking about. That happens on Monday. The nodes change signs, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with the lunar nodes, but they are definitely important. I'll explain what that means, but it's, this happens every 2.5 years or so. The nodes change signs, so it changes the focus that we have during, those 2.5 year periods. So definitely something to pay attention to, something that will change things a lot. I'm actually kind of excited for that one on a subjective level. We've had so much intensity in Taurus and Scorpio, mostly Taurus though, really changing how we support ourselves financially and all that. I'm looking forward to a little bit less intensity there. We still have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. That's enough. Let's move the North Node out of there and put it in areas where we can be a little bit more expansive and outgoing, and that's where the action is. That's where the new changes will be focused on, Aries and Libra. Okay, and there's two more things I've got. Sun leaves Cancer and enters Leo late next week as well, so happy almost Leo season. That's a lot of fun, I think, for everyone, because Sun is in domicile in Leo. It's an energy that most, if not all of us, can readily connect with and embrace. So Sun in Leo, that's a fun one. Sun is vitality, it's energy, and it's so dominant with Sun in Leo. So that could be a lot of fun depending on your chart. Very last thing I'm going to rattle on about is Pluto will turn retrograde next week. My notes say that Venus. My bad. Venus turns retrograde at 28 degrees Leo. So Venus spends less time retrograde than any other planet. I don't know if a lot of people know that. So it's definitely a very rare retrograde to have. Definitely a very interesting one. So we're going to talk about what that means and everything I just said next week. Okay, but yeah, very excited to bring back the forecast. I hope y'all got something out of that. I definitely missed the forecast when I wasn't doing it, so bringing that back, I'm gonna start doing this every week again. And I look forward to seeing you next week.